All right, what I want to say is that at this point, what I have is two areas where I've just like layered or I've put a layer of the modeling paste in, and I'm letting it just like hang out there and dry for a little bit. What I want to do is try to add a little texture to my lake, and I'm doing this with a fork, and I'm just putting on like really small amounts of this modeling paste. And I think actually what I'm gonna do is use a chopstick, and I'm gonna, again, kind of pretend that this is a paintbrush. And what I'm doing is I'm using just some small horizontal marks to give the impression of the texture of the water's surface. All right, so I need a little bit more of the paste, and once I have that, that'll be fine. Okay, what I'm gonna do, so normally I probably would not put just a big old blob in the middle, just because it's a little bit, I think it's a little harder to spread out than if you have your kind of stuff spaced out evenly. But just for this, I guess I will. Okay, so again, what I'm doing is I'm just sort of separating the flour, water, salt mixture out over the surface of the cardboard until I have something that gives me the impression, or gives me the texture of the water. When you are doing this, what you will find is that the kind of consistency of the mixture changes. So when I started this, it was a bit more liquidy, but now that it's becoming drier, obviously the consistency changes. All right, but I think that is acceptable. Okay, what I want to show you, the last thing I think I want to show you is just how I can kind of create like some texture of trees. So this stuff is a little bit more, let's say, thick. And what I'm doing though is just using the same tools, the same kind of utensils to draw vertical lines. And like, I think that this is kind of interesting to just observe how much of an impact like vertical versus horizontal, like the impact of that effect is in your work. So even though that they're pretty similar in terms of just being like short straight lines, having the direction change really does affect the way that it appears to you. Okay, so I'm gonna call that fine, and then let's try a different texture over here. Maybe I can just swirl these around, but also just kind of giving myself another indication of texture in foliage and trees and wildlife, nature. Maybe not wildlife, but here we go. One thing I will also just mention about this project is that not all of the areas are showing texture. So some of the, like for example, the sky is not really a place that I'm seeing a lot of texture aside from the cloud. So that's why I've left it plain. Okay. So this is where I'm going to pause for now. What I will say is that by the time you are finished, when you're working through this process, you might have to come to some points where you get to a stopping point and you're not going to actually finish everything all at the same time. What I would say is that it's helpful to let this dry a little bit, and then if you want to go back and add layers tomorrow, then that would be fine. If you are going to do that, I would suggest like covering this with saran wrap. Go ahead and wash your utensils right away, because the flour and water mixture will be really sticky and hard. But to save this mixture to use for later, cover it with a piece of saran wrap so that the saran wrap is actually touching the paste, and then that way you can reuse it. Sorry, I just want to show you that real quick because I want to make sure that we're not confused. So, got a little plastic wrap, and just what I'm going to do is actually cover it so that it's touching the mixture. Okay, this can go into the refrigerator and you can use it again later.